Greetings and welcome to the Together We Soar short webinar series. Today's topic, Education Goes Virtual. I'm Dr. John Woods. I'm the Provost and Chief Academic Officer at the University of Phoenix. Today we'll be talking about education in a time that is completely uncertain and unprecedented for us, the coronavirus or COVID-19 situation, where all of K-12 and all of higher education are literally scrambling to figure out how to salvage the rest of their school year and to move online as a mechanism for doing so. So let's dive right into it. As I said, these are uncertain times. We've seen temporary school closures. We've seen some schools or school districts close indefinitely. We've seen colleges and universities tell students the school year is over and they'll look forward to seeing those students back in the fall. We're hearing some colleges question whether or not the fall is even a possibility. Additionally, we see restrictions on movement and travel, shelter-in-place orders, and an impact across all of higher education, from early childhood ed to K-12 to higher education. Everyone is trying to do in a time when we can no longer meet and learn in the same place. The challenges are many. As we look to make this transition from face-to-face learning to distance learning or virtual learning, there are lots of difficulties to try and overcome. Educators need to figure out what tools they'll use to connect with students, and there are certainly a wide array of these. Educators are asking questions about time on task. Gone is the typical school day with 5 or 6 or 7 periods of 40 to 50 to 70 minutes. And now students are studying online, but how much time should they be doing that? What about the risk of burning those students out by having them do too much in front of their computers? As well, people are asking whether or not this new form of learning should be synchronous or asynchronous. Certainly there are benefits to both, but there are also trade-offs. Synchronous learning requires people to be in one place at one time. Asynchronous learning has greater flexibility, but maybe it's not as dynamic. As well, I think we're wrestling with whether or not some students even have access to the appropriate technology. We think of the internet these days as ubiquitous, but in some communities that's not the case. Or if there's internet, the internet is not high-speed internet, and there are bandwidth issues. And bottom line is a lot of educators are considering whether or not their pedagogy or their andragogy can be pivoted to adjust to this new way of teaching and learning. Lots of questions are being asked. In the K-12 context, and this hits close to home, I have 3 kids in the K-12 system. Teachers are settling on different methodologies, sometimes individualized by teacher, sometimes by school, sometimes by district. There's huge variability across the K-12 landscape. Our own Dr. Pam Rogaman published another webinar in this series with some helpful tips for 6 through 12, and I'd encourage you to check that out. It talks about how parents can be partners in the learning process. In addition to methodology questions, we're talking about a lot of different decisions that need to be made about tools. Some schools have access to learning management systems, be it a Blackboard or a Schoology or a Google Classroom. Other schools and school districts do not, and they're simply sending materials to students as email attachments. Proper consideration needs to be given to time on task. Perhaps informative is the K through 5 homeschooling research that suggests while learning will happen all day, different kinds of learning happen throughout that day, and only 2 hours of formal learning time should be devoted towards subjects students would otherwise learn sitting at a desk in class if they were learning at a school. And so how many hours should students be learning in front of their computer in this new world of online learning? I think we need to be patient and realize that we're not going to be perfect at this from the beginning. We need to try different things and iterate. Someone once said, you don't expect somebody to become an expert swimmer when there's a flood. You just expect them to stay alive and stay afloat, and hopefully they'll become an expert later and less a time of crisis. I would encourage folks to think about personalizing the learning. I mentioned sending email attachments and having students complete work and send that back. But I think you can humanize the learning, you can personalize the learning, and you can really empathize with students by adding different components to the learning, such as live phone call, a Zoom meeting, a Skype meeting, FaceTime, video messages, text messages. There are lots of ways I think we can empathize with students who are learning in isolation, really, and make that learning more empathetic and more encouraging and more motivating for students. Lastly, I would encourage folks to look for the resources that are out there. I mentioned one, our own Dr. Pam Rogoman has a great webinar in this series you should really check out. There are tons and tons of other resources. In my own case, I refer my kids all the time to Khan Academy. There are thousands and thousands of videos that help students learn a concept or solve a problem in different ways, maybe different and better ways than they're learning at school that really help them. There are lots and lots of resources out there. Curate those to suit your needs. Ones that work for you, stick with them. Ones that don't, move on and try something else. Again, be patient and iterate. In the higher education context, not a day goes by where we don't see articles posted about the dramatic shift from classroom learning on college campuses to entirely virtual learning over a computer. The New York Times even mentioned the University of Phoenix in an article recently where they said the entire world is becoming the University of Phoenix. There's certainly a big shift taking place. Many colleges and universities already use online learning to some extent, but not in the same ways. And many of them use it to supplement campus learning as opposed to rely on it entirely. I think we have a stage where we are right now of partial readiness. Even the University of Phoenix, 95% of our students are online. We had to make a decision how to help our students, thousands and thousands of them, who are studying at our campuses across the country. Even though we are a longtime pioneer in distance learning, we still needed to plan for that. We needed to figure out how we would use our learning management system in a new and different way. We needed to figure out how to train our faculty. We needed to communicate to students all across the country of when this would all happen and how it would take place. We pivoted very quickly, but it still took us a few days. And as I said, we're an institution that's been doing adult learning for decades and distance learning for at least 20 years. The good news is all of higher education is doing something with distance learning today. Many people use a platform so that students can see their grades or upload their assignments or access their book or their syllabus. All institutions will be challenged to figure out how to take that platform use to the next level and make learning completely remote, completely online. As I said, the good news is many institutions are already doing some things. I would encourage folks to think through the fact that, again, as I said in the K-12 context, this will be iterative. We need to temper our expectations. Nobody should judge the online learning that happens in crisis mode years from now as whether or not it was perfect and whether or not it was ideal. Surely it won't. What we need to think about is in the future, what did we learn from this time of crisis? How did we begin to leverage those tools in new and different ways? And are there ways we should use them always moving forward because of what we've learned? I think one of the things that'll be imperative during this time of experimentation, time of crisis, time of adjustment will be that people will learn how to empathize with online learners and very much try to humanize the experience to the greatest extent possible. As I said, that can be done in different ways. I think the days of a flat course where there's lots of reading and lots of writing and submission of materials are long gone. I think engaging the learner, we have to have multimedia, we have to have video. I think faculty have to have a voice in the class. Faculty should reach out to their students. Faculty should even post welcome videos. We need to leverage all the tools at our disposal today to humanize the learning and make it more engaging and have it really motivate the student and encourage a student to persist. There's lots of ways we can do that. I'm a big believer that out of this time of crisis, people will begin to use the virtual tools to a greater extent than ever before and learn how to use them better. So moving forward, where will we be? I think embracing this opportunity to teach and learn in new and different ways is certainly a worry and a concern, but we shouldn't try and be perfect at it out of the gate. If we're new to it, I think we have to be patient and we have to understand that we'll get better over time. Iteration will be the key. When this current health crisis is over, we'll have acquired a new comfort level, I hope, with some tools that provide us with different ways to reach students and different ways for students to learn. We should be leveraging these anyway. The world relies on virtual learning in many, many respects, and colleges and universities will be better off having employed these tools in new and different ways for the first time, some of them. I think there's hope in all of this. Again, I would encourage folks to be patient, to not judge this period as to whether or not we got it perfect, because we won't. And I think even the University of Phoenix story is instructive. We had to pivot, and it took us days to get ready and train our faculty. Our faculty happily are reporting the experience is a great one. Our students are doing the same. I think this can be a tremendous opportunity for all of higher education to make a great pivot towards the future. I expect that we'll use these tools now because we have to, but in the future we'll use them because we know they work and we want to. Thanks very much.